Long Beach, California, August 1964. The International Karate Championships. Chuck Norris sits in the competitor waiting area when the defending champion walks past, looks at him, and says to his training partner, "Who's this nobody? Never heard of him. Easy first round." What happens in the next 45 minutes doesn't just win Chuck his first major tournament. It announces the arrival of a fighter who will dominate competitive karate for the next decade, proves that quiet preparation beats loud reputation, and teaches an entire generation that unknown doesn't mean incapable, it just means your moment hasn't arrived yet. The Long Beach Municipal Auditorium is packed, 2,500 spectators filling every seat, standing room only in the back, the biggest martial arts event in American history. Fighters from 23 states, multiple countries, every major style represented. The air is electric with competition energy, that particular tension of warriors about to test themselves publicly, reputations on the line, egos exposed, skill measured not by claims but by results. The venue smells like sweat and canvas mats, and that sharp scent of adrenaline that permeates spaces where people push their limits. Chuck is 24 years old. Been training in Tang Soo Do for 5 years since Korea, opened his first small school in Torrance 6 months ago, has competed in some local tournaments, won most of them, but nothing like this. This is the major leagues. This is where reputations are built or destroyed. This is where fighters become champions or fade into obscurity. Nobody here knows Chuck Norris. He's from Oklahoma originally, Air Force veteran, runs a modest school, teaches honest martial arts to students who want to learn. He's not flashy, doesn't promote himself, just trains quietly and consistently. He's wearing a simple white gi, no school patch, no sponsor logos, just clean white canvas, and his brown belt tied properly. His hands are calloused from Makiwara training, his knuckles slightly enlarged from years of hitting hard surfaces, his demeanor calm but focused. He watches other fighters warming up, studying their movements, their habits, their tells. Some shadowbox aggressively, throwing power strikes to intimidate others. Some stretch ostentatiously, showing flexibility to impress spectators. Chuck does neither. Just sits quietly, breathing controlled, visualizing his matches, running techniques through his mind, preparing internally rather than performing externally. The defending champion is Rick Martinez. 29 years old, Japanese Shotokan background, 3 tournament wins in a row, known for devastating reverse punch and unorthodox timing that catches opponents off guard. He's 6'1", 185 pounds, has the build and confidence of someone who's proven himself repeatedly. His gi is pristine white with red school patches, his black belt worn but respected, his presence commanding. When Rick walks through the waiting area, conversations stop, people nod respectfully, acknowledge the champion, give space. Rick and his training partner pass Chuck's bench. Rick glances down at Chuck, sees an unfamiliar face, no school patch indicating prestigious lineage, no reputation preceding him, just another competitor from nowhere trying to make a name. Rick says to his partner, loud enough for Chuck to hear, "Who's this nobody? Never heard of him. Easy first round." His partner laughs, says something about keeping the warm-up light, since Rick's real competition won't come until semi-finals at earliest. Chuck doesn't react visibly, doesn't look up, doesn't respond, doesn't let it affect his breathing or focus. He's heard this before. In the Air Force, superiors assumed he was weak because of his size. In early training, opponents dismissed him because he was quiet. His whole life, people have underestimated him because he doesn't match their image of what dangerous looks like. He's learned to let actions speak instead of words, to let results prove what claims cannot. Tournament brackets are posted. Chuck is indeed matched against Rick Martinez in the first round. The brackets cause murmurs through competitors. Some express sympathy for Chuck, assuming he'll be eliminated quickly. Some comment that it's unfortunate for an unknown fighter to face the defending champion immediately. No chance to build confidence through easier matches. Rick supporters say this will be a quick demonstration, a statement fight. Rick sending a message to other competitors that he's still dominant. Chuck studies the bracket, notes his potential path to finals if he wins. When he wins. Not if. When. He doesn't doubt himself. never has. He knows his preparation has been thorough, his technique sound, his conditioning excellent. Rick's reputation doesn't intimidate him, because Chuck has sparred with excellent fighters, knows that reputation and skill sometimes align but not always. Some fighters talk better than they fight. Some fighters rely on past victories instead of current preparation. Chuck will find out which type Rick is. The first round is called. Chuck and Rick enter the competition area. The crowd murmurs, clearly expecting a short match. Rick bounces on his feet confidently, loosening shoulders, cracking neck, putting on a show. Chuck stands quietly in his corner, hands at sides, breathing steady, eyes on Rick but expression neutral. The referee brings them to center, explains rules, asks if they understand. Both nod. The referee steps back, raises his hand, drops it. The match begins. Rick comes out aggressive immediately, establishing dominance, throwing a fast combination designed to overwhelm and intimidate. His technique is good, strikes crisp, power evident, but Chuck isn't there. Chuck's already moved, 6 inches offline, not retreating but angling, creating position. Rick's combination hits air. Chuck doesn't counter yet, just evades, reads, learns. Rick resets, throws another combination, faster, angrier. Again, Chuck isn't there. Minimal movement creating maximum effect. The crowd starts paying attention. This isn't the blowout they expected. The nobody is making the champion miss. Rick's confidence shifts slightly, jaw tightening, movements becoming more deliberate, less casual. He respects Chuck now, sees this won't be easy. Rick sets up more carefully, fakes a high attack, goes low with a sweep. Good technique, smart setup, but Chuck anticipated it, having seen Rick's tell, a slight shoulder drop before the sweep. Chuck lifts his leg, sweep passes underneath. Chuck's counter comes instantly. Ridge hand strike towards Rick's neck, controlled, pulling impact just before connection. Point. The referee awards the point to Chuck. The crowd reacts with surprise. The nobody just scored on the champion. Rick's face shows shock, then determination. He increases intensity, comes at Chuck with everything, combinations flowing, power behind each strike, trying to overwhelm through sheer aggression. Chuck weaves, blocks, parries, staying just out of range, letting Rick burn energy, waiting for the opening. It comes. Rick overcommits to a reverse punch, his signature technique, fast and powerful, but leaving him momentarily extended. Chuck sidesteps, counters with a back knuckle to Rick's temple, controlled but clean. Second point. Now the crowd is fully engaged, cheering, sensing an upset. Rick is breathing harder, not from exertion, but from frustration, from the realization that his opponent is better than expected, that this fight is real. They continue. Rick tries different strategies, faking, setting traps, using his experience. Chuck adapts to everything. His response is precise, economical, never wasted, never flashy, just effective. Third point comes from a counter kick. Chuck reading Rick's attack pattern, anticipating the moment, executing perfectly. The match ends. Chuck wins 3-1. The referee raises Chuck's hand. The crowd applauds, appreciating skill even from an unknown. Rick stands stunned, processing. After a moment, he approaches Chuck, bows deeply, says, "I underestimated you. That was foolish. You're an excellent fighter." Chuck bows in return, says, "You're very skilled. Thank you for the match." Rick says, "Who are you? Where did you train?" Chuck says, "Chuck Norris. I have a small school in Torrance. I learned Tang Soo Do in Korea." Rick nods, says, "You won't be unknown after today. That was impressive." Chuck says simply, "I just did my best." Rick says, "No, you did more than that. You studied me, adapted, never panicked. Most fighters facing me first time make mistakes from pressure. You stayed calm. That's rare." Chuck says, "My instructor taught me that panic is the enemy. Clarity wins fights, not strength." Rick says, "Your instructor was right. Good luck in your next matches." Chuck advances through the tournament. Each match attracts more attention. The unknown fighter who beat the defending champion. People start asking about him, about his school, about his style. Chuck remains humble, thanks his opponents, respects everyone, doesn't gloat or celebrate prematurely. He just focuses on each match as it comes, applying the same principles. Read your opponent, adapt your response, stay calm, execute precisely. The finals come. Chuck faces another experienced fighter,
older, more decorated, someone who's been competing for a decade. The crowd is split now, some supporting the underdog Chuck, some supporting the established fighter. The match is close, both fighters excellent, techniques sharp, neither giving much. Chuck wins 2-1. The auditorium erupts. The unknown from Torrance just won the International Karate Championships in his first major tournament. Ed Parker, the legendary Kenpo master who organized the tournament, presents the trophy. He says into the microphone, "This young man came from nowhere today and showed us all that reputation means nothing compared to skill. That unknown doesn't mean incapable. That quiet preparation speaks louder than loud confidence. Chuck Norris, your humility and excellence honor martial arts." The crowd gives a standing ovation. Backstage after the tournament, several established fighters approach Chuck. They congratulate him, ask about his training, his philosophy, his school. Some want to train with him, learn from him, understand how someone so unknown could be so skilled. Rick Martinez is among them. He says to Chuck, "I called you nobody. I was wrong. You're somebody. You've always been somebody. You just hadn't shown everyone yet." Chuck says, "I was nobody. I am still nobody special. I'm just a man who trains hard and tries his best. Today my best was enough. Tomorrow it might not be. That's why I keep training." Rick says, "That's why you'll keep winning. Champions think they've arrived. You understand you're always arriving, never arrived. That mindset is why you're dangerous." Over the next 10 years, Chuck dominates competitive karate. 6 consecutive years as professional middleweight champion. 183 wins, 10 losses, 2 draws. Becomes one of the most successful tournament fighters in history. But he always remembers that first tournament, when Rick Martinez called him nobody, when he was unknown and underestimated, when his moment arrived and he was prepared for it. Rick Martinez becomes one of Chuck's closest friends in the martial arts community. They train together, teach together, compare techniques and philosophies. Rick tells people, "Chuck taught me the most important lesson. Never dismiss the quiet ones. Never assume unknown means incapable. The guy who sits quietly preparing might be the most dangerous person in the room." Chuck was nobody until he was somebody. And the transition took 45 minutes. Years later, when Chuck opens more schools, when he becomes famous through films, when everyone knows his name, reporters ask about his first tournament win. Chuck always credits his opponents. Thanks Ed Parker for organizing the event, emphasizes the quality of fighters he faced. When pressed about Rick's nobody comment, Chuck says, "Rick was right. I was nobody. We're all nobody until we prove otherwise. The question isn't whether people recognize you. The question is whether you're ready when your moment comes. I was ready that day. I'm grateful for that." Rick Martinez continues competing, but never reaches the heights Chuck does. Instead of being bitter, he becomes one of Chuck's biggest supporters. Tells students about the day Chuck walked into his first major tournament and changed everything. He says, "I learned more from losing to Chuck than from any victory. I learned that dismissing people is foolish, that preparation matters more than reputation, that humble, quiet fighters can be deadlier than loud, confident ones." Chuck never bragged, never promoted himself, just trained and showed up ready. That's the lesson. In 2018, decades after that tournament, someone posts video footage online. Grainy, black and white, but unmistakably Chuck's first major tournament win. The video goes viral. Comments flood in. "Look how calm he is. Nobody knew who he was. The defending champion had no chance." This is before Chuck became legendary. This is when legend was being built. Chuck sees the video, watches himself at 24, young and unknown, sitting quietly while Rick dismisses him, then methodically winning each match. He shares it with a simple caption, "August 1964. I was nobody hoping to become somebody. Grateful for everyone who helped me along the way." So here's the question. Who are you dismissing as nobody right now? What quiet person in your gym, your office, your life is preparing in silence, ready to surprise everyone when their moment comes? And more importantly, when someone dismisses you as nobody, do you let it derail you or does it fuel your preparation? Because Chuck Norris was nobody. Rick Martinez was right to say it, but Chuck didn't argue, didn't complain, didn't demand recognition. He just prepared, and when his moment arrived 45 minutes later, he was ready. The unknown became known. The nobody became somebody. Not through loud claims but through quiet excellence. Who's the nobody in your life who's actually somebody waiting to be revealed? And when will you stop dismissing them and start recognizing that unknown doesn't mean incapable? It means their moment hasn't arrived yet.